What's going on, guys? So, free agency should essentially be a done deal for us, which means we are all steam, full force ahead for the NFL draft. If we make any other moves, it might just be some very minor depth signings, just kind of seeing what sticks. Or we could take the route that the Ravens have been using to crush the compensatory picks for the last 5 to 7 years, and that's feed off of the cap cuts and just whatever cuts that come up as the offseason continues to progress, because those don't count against the formula. So, while that would all be great, what I wanted to talk about was the potential for the Chargers and the Jets to be great draft partners, either before or by the time the draft actually comes around. So, here's kind of how I'm prefacing the whole thing. The Jets kind of had a few objectives going into the season. There's some that still stand for us. So, number one was that we heard the Jets wanted to get a number one cornerback. And I believe personally, after seeing the breakdown and the reports and all the good stuff that came out once this signing landed, DJ Reid is a number one cornerback for us. Does he fit the classic mold at 5'9"? And, I think he's like a 100. I could be wrong. I want to say it was 188 pounds. Either way, no, he's not the prototypical size and build. That's perfectly fine. The performance and the game tape is what matters. And he puts up the numbers to back it up, as he mentioned. So you can check that box off. If you don't, we still have the ability to go and get an Ahmad Sauce Gardner or any of the other top cornerbacks in the draft that we believe may fit that role. And they have a little, of course, Gardner is 6'3", so there's the classic build there that people will be looking for along with the skills. So we can essentially check that box off depending on how you feel about Reid. The other one, the more notable that's been coming up recently, is the need for a number one wide receiver. Elijah Moore, at least for the game film he was able to put on once he got comfortable, seems like he should fit the mold of being a number one wide receiver. So depending on consistency, availability, all of those things, he could become that for us. Again, does he fit the prototypical size and build, etc.? No, but as I mentioned before, there's plenty of examples of players that don't have that body type that have been able to excel and flourish and become, top 10 in the league at what they do. And one of the top ones for me would be like the Steve Smith Sr. I want to say he was a senior, but either way. So there's still that need, right? We've had a couple of misses. Robert Woods, people wanted Allen Robertson Sr. or the second, whatever. And then, of course, we just had the huge crushing blow to not getting Tyreek Hill, losing him to the Dolphins. So it's a miss, but it's also an opportunity. Elijah Moore can flourish. We also have the prime ability to go and get a wide receiver that's at the top of this draft. And it's essentially the crux of what I'm using for this trade. The value at top 10 doesn't necessarily align depending on how you feel about the wide receivers with picking one there. But the middle rounds of the draft is prime territory. And ideally, there's a couple scenarios where we could trade down in both, but I'm talking about pick number 10 here. So the Chargers would be a great target for us because they have a need to shore up their run defense. And there just so happens to be a person that crushed the combine, has pretty good game tape. He's from a top conference. And you can't ask for more from the offseason than somebody who's boosted themselves up from probably a late round one pick, maybe a fringe number 2, to essentially a top 10 pick almost. And there's a few teams that pick before the Chargers that can necessarily use his talents before him. So the Chargers at pick 17 are going to need to probably at least get into the pick 12 range, something like that. They can alleviate all concerns if they want to use us as trade partners, though. So the ideal trade scenario that I would present in this case is we would swap first round picks. So the Chargers would give us pick 17. They'll now have pick number 10. We'll also swap round 3 picks. So instead of us picking at number 69, we will pick at the Chargers 79th pick. We'll also give the Chargers round 4. I believe that's pick number 111. And in return, we're going to get a first round pick from them next year. So while we do lose another, round 4 pick, we still have a pick in that round. We basically swap picks in the first and third, and we still get that number 1 draft pick, or at least round 1 draft pick that the Joe Douglas seems to covet and want to make sure he can make happen to continue to build his roster around his team. assuming that the Chargers, because they beefed up their defense and done a lot of great things over there, you would have to imagine they're going to pick somewhere between like 23, let's call it, and 32 ideally. So it's going to be a late round one, but still a round one nonetheless. And if things break right for us, in best case scenario, we get, a winning season. We're probably picking in the mid to late-ish mid rounds of next year. So still great position to be in, getting a number one pick at the price of going into the middle rounds. And then at 17, it makes a whole lot more sense. You have to imagine one or two receivers maybe go up by then, but to have your choice of whatever remaining wide receivers, there's 5 or 6 at least with round one talent. Or if they want to go a different round and still wait for round 2, they have that ability. But now they put themselves in a position to, make the value match up a little bit more instead of having to reach for a player, which is ideally what we're trying to get away from. And if you take a look at the trade value charts for this, we're giving up basically 1,617 points in trade value. We're receiving 1,825 back, depending on what that position of the round one next year ultimately ends up being. If they tank and something happens terrible to the season, the lower it goes, the better it looks as a trade for us. But let me know what you guys think. I think this is definitely a win-win. The Chargers would trade up in order to grab Jordan Davis at number 10, which I think based on all the news, and there's been multiple reports about them falling in love with this particular player. And he showed out at the combine. 341-pound men should not be able to operate the way he does just on a normal. So they would pretty much guarantee that their run defense won't have the same affliction they had last year by picking Jordan Davis. And for us, we just end up making out with better value as well as that coveted number one we want next year. So again, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Is this a trade that you would like to see happen? I tried to make it as realistic as I think is possible. Strictly going by the trade value chart, maybe Joe Douglas again can fleece them for a lot more than what I have presented here. But let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch up with you guys again. Peace.